bosses. Welcome to this week's Boss Confidential. Dun, dun, dun. So we have to talk about a topic really important. I mean, they're always important, but sexual harassment in the workplace and how to deal with it. It's a really like hard thing, and it's kind of an uncomfortable thing. And even companies, I mean, when you're hired, they go through, what they have to go through, telling you how to deal with it. Every company shows you how to deal with it, but it's awkward. And they just kind of blow over it. Yeah. And just don't want to talk about it.
And it's such a hot topic right now. I hate to use that phrase, but it is because we see it happening in all sorts of industries. So we're going to give you some tips and tricks on how to deal with it.
Yeah, I think it's good that it's such a large topic of conversation because heads of companies and heads of HR are hopefully now super aware of what is going on, and hopefully they will find better ways to handle things, because a lot of the controversies that are happening are because they were reported to HR, but HR swept it under the rug as to not make a bigger deal for the big companies or conglomerates that these people worked for. So I think it's on our side, which is good as a female. So as far as sexual harassment and bullying, I always approached the matter. I mean, I remember the first time that I was harassed in the workplace was when I was 15 years old, my first job.
Oh my gosh.
And I just was direct. And I think that probably half the time, if you're direct with the harasser or the bullier, they'll back off because they realize that they can't walk all over you. So really just saying like, this behavior is inappropriate. Please don't do that. Try that first, I would say. It's a very hard thing to talk about. And also, if you're facing persistent harassment, it's a very hard thing to tell other people about because you don't feel like you have an ally. So I guess I would also say to try and find an ally.
Yeah.
A friend that knows the other person that you can confide in.
Yeah, that's really
someone
good
that you
advice.
trust. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the obvious, report to HR. And we've learned from the past that sometimes that doesn't solve all problems.
Right.
Well, what happens when the person harassing you is the big boss and you're scared? Because this has happened to me. I just thought of this scenario. And you don't want to say anything because you don't want them to lose their job, but then
you
it's
also don't want to lose your job
inappropriate.
because it's your word against that person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, lucky in my case, I had evidence. I mean, this happened not in the workplace, but it happened via text message and phone. And so I had evidence to do whatever I needed to, but it's just, I didn't take it there because I said to him how I felt, and then it made me feel uncomfortable. And just like what Jill said, it was inappropriate, and that was not our relationship, nor have I ever given him any reason to think that was our relationship, and please stop. And he did. So if it went further, then obviously matters HR and all that would have had to take into place. But I mean, I don't know, should I have handled it differently?
Well, I think that maybe this is the ruthless side of me. Screw them and their job. You shouldn't be in a position of power if you don't know how to treat people.
Very true.
And so I don't really care about your well-being if you're not even respecting mine. So if your concern is getting them fired, don't be concerned about it because they should be fired.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because all three of us are very strong women and we have very strong opinions, and we're also not afraid to stand up for ourselves. So I guess maybe we have to place ourselves in the mindset of somebody that might not have that strong of willpower or is not willing to act out like we would. Yeah. And I just think, on top of everything we've already discussed, like Meghan said, it's really important to document everything that happens.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially at work, if you are not the big boss, somebody else is above you. It needs to be reported. You need to have printouts of things. You need to show proof of the behavior. Really do whatever you can to get proof. Yeah. That's really the most important thing. And sometimes it's just a slap on the wrist. Other times it could be a suspension for that person, and sometimes it could be firing, relocation of the job. But really, if the behavior is continuing, you need, for your sanity, to do something about it.
You should never feel uncomfortable to go to work. You should never, wake up in the morning, be scared to go to work because of whoever's harassing you. Tell them it's not okay.
And you know what, too? It's funny. Like, I always think about social media now, and especially with the Me Too movement and all of the creepy men in Hollywood that have come out, you know, social media is really great. So if nobody's doing anything about it, then it's a radical thing, but post it on social media. I mean, on my website that I work for, we found so many women's stories just from Facebook posts. Sharing their story, and it's hard to share your story, but legally, unless you sign an NDA, you're allowed to tell your story. If they're not doing anything about it and you have documentation that you get everything in email, don't have phone conversations, make sure that you have all the HR appointments in your emails. And I know it sounds like a lot, but really covering your bases is probably the best thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to sum everything up, be direct. Super important to be direct. Report it, obviously. Document everything that you can. And find somebody that can be a friend in this with you that you can talk about.
That's probably the most important one to me.
Have support.
So you feel like you're not alone.
Exactly. Well,
I know, jinx.
And on that jinx, we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Boss Please Pod. And don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe on iTunes. Navigate the path to your best self with us, because bossing together is always better.